Hello, I would like to welcome you to my full stitch braid tutorial video. So today I'm going to be walking you through the process that I use to create my very special feed-in stitch braids, okay? So as you can see, we're going to be using some pre-stretched canicolon braiding here. Now you can also use the traditional canicolon braiding hair brands such as Outre or Femi. However, I do recommend that you use the pre-stretched one because it's lighter, but also two because it calls for less waste. Now, one of the main things that you must do in doing a proper feed-in braid style is you want to make sure that you do a thorough job of pre-sectioning your braiding hair prior to braiding the client's hair, okay? So personally, I like to start with super small pieces, okay? Now, theoretically, the client's hair is going to be thinnest, closest to the hairline, and the density is going to gradually increase the further back you get into the client's head. Therefore, as you can see, I'm starting with smaller pieces and I'm gradually increasing the size of my subsections of braiding here. This is going to make it so much easier once I actually begin the braiding process. Now, one of the first things that I do with any braiding style is I always part my client's hair directly down the middle. What that merely does is it just helps to give me my symmetry, so that, for example, if a client is getting 5 braids straight back, then I know there should be 2.5 braids on each side of the client's natural head. I'm going to take my edge wax and I'm going to apply it to the client's hair. Now, as you can see, I'm actually going in the middle of the subsection of hair to apply the product. Reason being is because of the density that this particular client has. Now, for some of my clients who have thinner hair, you can merely just apply the edge wax to the outer parts of each subsection of the cornrow. However, if the client's hair is really thick, you are going to want to apply the product in the middle as well, because once you apply the product to the outer edges and work it through using the comb, it's not going to penetrate the middle portion of the hair as desired, okay? And that's very, very important to get that very crisp stitch look. Now here I'm just taking the upper portion of my comb, combing each strand of hair in the direction that I want it to go into, and then I am immediately tracing the comb strokes with my finger, and this is just going to ensure that those strands of hair are smoothed down towards the client's scalp in the direction that I want it to go into. Now, as you can see, I'm doing a slight swoop motion to create the baby hair look. Now, I'll finish the baby hair later in the video. To start my braid, I'm going to use the tip of the comb just to kind of start the first subsection for this particular cornrow. Now make sure that you are very mindful of your tension, number one, because you don't want to apply too much tension to the client's natural hair, but secondly, because you do not want to disrupt the C-shaped motion that you have created in preparation for the edges. So the first motion, we started with the client's natural hair. Now, as you can see, I am slowly beginning to add those subsections of caniculum braiding hair that we sectioned out at the beginning of the video. And again, keeping in mind that you want to keep the natural density of the client's natural hair, okay? So we are starting with our smallest subsections of braiding hair, adding those in, and then we are going to increase the size of the subsections of braiding hair as we get further towards the back of the client's head. Now, as you're braiding, be mindful of the curvature of the head, okay? So as you go throughout each cornrow, your slits, okay, those slits that I'm making, they should slowly but surely pivot following the natural curvature of the hair. So you'll see where I am right now. Those lines are going to slowly but surely kind of pivot as we turn going down towards the client's occipital bone, okay? you want to ideally make the part at the nape area, you want to make that part of the braid the thickest part of the cornrow. So as you can see, I am grabbing medium size subsections of the braiding hair and adding them to the client's natural hair in preparation for making that particular part of the braid the thickest point of each braid. Now be sure that you are detangling the client's hair along with the braiding hair as you go, and you'll see later on as well that to tame any flyaways, it's okay to take a little braid wax and just smooth that right onto that section of hair, and it will definitely help to tame those flyaways. And it's best if you do this as you go, just so you can make sure that you are tucking the client's ends into the braiding hair. So once you've completed all of your cornrows, the next part of this hairstyle is going to be to finish plaiting the ends of the braids. So what I'm doing is just checking for density, and you can actually feel the hair thinning out, especially using the pre-stretched braiding hair. And so whenever I feel the density change, I like to take another subsection of the braiding hair, preferably one of my medium or large sizes, and add that into the plait. Now it's really important that you are consistent with your tension, not tension as in tight, but tension as in how securely you're holding the braid when you are adding the braiding hair. You want to make sure that you keep your tension consistent, because that's what's going to make sure that you have a nice, neat braid that is free from any lumps, humps, or bumps that would otherwise signal to somebody that that particular location is where you added additional braiding hair. So once you've determined about how long you want your braids to be on your client, I would recommend starting about maybe 6 to 8 inches above where you want the braids to stop, and do a technique called points cutting. Now with points cutting, what we're literally going to do is we're going to take our shears or our scissors and we're going to point up in a vertical motion, okay? So you want to be careful that you do not cut an entire chunk of hair off, but you just want to go in and gradually thin the hair out. So once you have done your vertical cuts, you are going to then just take your fingers and finger comb the loose hair out of the section. So consequently, this will result in a thinner braid. Once we have completely braided our first braid, we're going to use that one as a guide moving forward. So we're just going to continue to eyeball the thickness of the braids, and we're going to add additional subsections of braiding hair as needed to make the braids bigger. And then when we're ready to thin the braid for the more tapered look, we'll go back to using our point cutting technique. And now to smooth the edges, I'm going to use the Design Essentials Edge Control, and I'm just going to apply just a little bit at the front of each braid. And I'm going to take my styling comb and I'm going to style it in small C strokes, okay? Now, everybody's hairline is different. One of the things that I've noticed about many of my clients, because of course they are interested in healthy hair, 9 times out of 10, most of them do not have what we typically refer to as quote unquote baby hairs, okay? So as you can see, even with my client in the video, she does not have a lot of short strands of hair around her hairline. She does have a few, but for the most part, her strands are fully matured and they're very strong, okay? So in cases such as these, it's more about creating the illusion of her having quote unquote baby hairs, but all in all, it's really up to a personal preference. Now, if by chance you happen to have missed some flyaways as you were braiding, it's no problem at all. Just take your edge wax and smooth it back on the braids, going in a downward motion. Now I'm going to begin carefully cutting any and all flyaways, okay? And as you can see in just a few seconds, I will actually take my hand and rub the braid in the opposite direction, which will reveal any flyaways that I may have missed. Make sure that your shears are parallel to the braid, okay? And you want them as close to the braid as possible. Now that we have carefully trimmed the ends of the braids, we're going to go ahead and dip the ends in boiling hot water. And I want you to pay special attention to how the braids will become more movable, more flexible, and more realistic looking. They won't be as stiff as they were prior to us dipping the ends in the water. And definitely make sure that when you're doing this that you already have a towel handy, because the water is very, very hot and it will burn you if you are not careful. And here you have the finished product. Thank you so much, and I hope that you have enjoyed watching this tutorial. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well as follow me on Instagram, J Morgan Styles. Thank you.